A humble woman, ridiculed at a will reading, stunned everyone when she inherited the entire estate. They smirked as Emily Bennett entered the opulent hall in her simple floral dress, but their amusement faded when the lawyer announced Walter Harrington's unexpected choice. Everything, the mansion, the millions, belonged to her. Emily smoothed the creases of her faded green dress, bought years ago for a friend's wedding, as she climbed the grand marble steps of the Harrington estate. Under the glittering chandeliers, she felt out of place. "Name?" the butler asked, barely looking up. "Emily Bennett, here for Mr. Harrington's will reading," she said calmly, despite her nerves. His eyebrow twitched. "The housekeeper?" "Personal assistant," she corrected softly, though she knew Walter's elite circle saw her as mere help. "This way." As she trailed him down the gleaming corridor, memories of Walter surfaced, his warm smile, his gentle guidance, his steady presence. For 5 years, she'd managed his affairs, sorted his letters, and in his final days, comforted him as illness took hold. The room buzzed with Walter's relatives, nieces and nephews who seldom visited him, now draped in designer suits and dresses. Their chatter stopped as Emily entered. "Well, look who's here," drawled Richard Harrington, Walter's nephew, sipping whiskey despite the morning hour. His sharp suit and bright tie stood out in the grim assembly. "Hello, Richard," Emily said evenly. "Nice to see you." "Is it?" he sneered, eyeing her dress. "This is a bit out of your league, isn't it? Family matters, you know." "Uncle requested her specifically," the lawyer interjected. "Anything either." Bradley Sheffield, the family attorney, stepped into the room, cutting through the tension. "She has every right to be here." Richard shrugged, flashing a smirk at his cousin Victoria. Sure, probably here to pour the tea, right?" A few relatives chuckled as Emily slipped into a corner seat. Across the room, Martha, the estate's longtime housekeeper, offered her a kind glance. "Now that everyone's here," Bradley said, setting his briefcase on the polished mahogany table, "we can proceed with Walter Harrington's last will and testament." Emily clasped her hands, steadying herself. She wasn't chasing wealth. Walter had given her something far greater, his trust and companionship. She was here because he'd asked, and she'd never failed him in life. She wouldn't now. 5 years ago, Emily had answered a modest ad. Personal assistant needed for elderly businessmen. Organizational skills required. Jobless after her. Accounting firm downsized. She was desperate. Stepping into Walter's study for the interview, surrounded by leather-bound books and the soft chime of an old clock, she felt an instant connection. "Miss Bennett," Walter had asked, peering over his glasses, "why should I choose you over 20 others?" Emily smiled. "I'm organized enough to run your affairs and bold enough to call you out when you're wrong." Walter's hearty laugh filled the room, his eyes twinkling. "Honesty, I value that." He hired her immediately. Over time, their work bond grew into a deep friendship rooted in respect. Walter shared lessons on stocks and art. Emily taught him to navigate apps and streaming. They ate lunch daily, debating everything from ethics to sports. "You're like my late wife, Caroline," Walter once said. "She never let me off easy either." "Get away with anything either." One memory burned brightly in Emily's mind. She'd walked into Walter's study to find Richard and Victoria cornering him about his will. "Be sensible, Uncle," Richard had pressed. "The foundations, a waste. The family deserves a say." Walter's expression was calm but firm. "My money, my choice. Please shut the door on your way out." After they left, Walter sighed deeply. "The vultures are circling, Emily. They're just worried about you," she'd said, though she doubted it. Walter gave her a sharp look. "No, they're worried about my fortune. There's a difference." He lifted a framed photo of his late wife. "Caroline and I never had children. Sometimes I think that was a mistake. It's never too late to make an impact," Emily replied. Walter studied her, pensive. "No, I suppose not." In his final weeks, as cancer kept him bedridden, Emily read to him, fluffed his pillows, and sat by his side. The relatives rarely showed, sending lavish bouquets instead. On his last day, Walter gripped her hand faintly. "Remember what I taught you," he murmured. About value, true value. Tears in her eyes, Emily nodded. I will, I promise. Hours later, he was gone. Bradley Sheffield cleared his throat, drawing the room's attention. Before we start, he said, adjusting his glasses, Walter was fully lucid when he finalized this will 3 months ago. Emily scanned the room. Richard's wife, Penelope, tapped her manicured nails on her designer bag. Victoria Peaton whispered to her brother Sebastian. Their father, Charles Peaton, Walter's brother-in-law, checked his gold watch with a frown. They were all here, relatives absent during Walter's illness, now poised expectantly. Liquid Holdings. Charles leaned forward, eyes gleaming as he tallied his expected share. Some of us have businesses to run, he snapped. Can we move this along? Of course, Bradley said smoothly, unfazed by the impatience. He shuffled his papers as Richard leaned toward Emily again. Betty left you a token, he sneered. Maybe a week's pay or that ugly vase you fussed over in his study. Richard, Penelope hissed, don't bother with the help. Emily stayed quiet, refusing to engage. What? Richard grinned. Uncle was always soft on sweet young things who humoured him. A few relatives snickered, though Martha, the housekeeper, gave Emily a warm look. Victoria chimed in, her voice sharp. I just hope she didn't trick him into funding that absurd children's charity she's always preaching about. She smiled at Emily, dripping with fake charm. No offence, dear, but this is family wealth. It belongs with us. Didn't take you for a schemer, Sebastian added, eyeing Emily. Guess the shy ones are the sneakiest. Emily's face flushed, but she held her poise. Over 5 years, she'd endured the family's subtle jabs, none grasping the true bond she shared with Walter. Charles slammed his foot down. Enough, Bradley, read the damn will. Right, yes, Bradley said, aligning his documents. Walter's estate totals roughly $47 million encompassing this estate, his investment, portfolio, art collection, and cash reserves. Unwavering. Come on, Bradley, enough with the small fry, what about the real money? Bradley's gaze remained steady. I'm getting there, Richard. He adjusted his glasses and resumed. I, Walter Edward Harrington, being of sound mind, hereby declare this my final will and testament, revoking all prior wills and codicils. The formalities droned on, prompting restless shifts among the relatives. Hurry up already, Sebastian grumbled. Bradley pressed forward. To my devoted household staff, who served me loyally, to each, Martha, the gardener, the cook, the chauffeur, I bequeath $100,000 tax-free. Martha's hand flew to her mouth, tears brimming. The others exchanged stunned looks. That's excessive, Richard muttered, unimpressed. To my brother-in-law, Charles Peaton, Bradley continued. Charles leaned in, expectant. I leave my vintage watch collection, which he's always coveted. Charles's grin faltered. Just the watches? Yes, Bradley confirmed. They're worth, at most, a few $100,000, Charles sputtered. To my niece, Victoria, Bradley read. Victoria preened, ready for her windfall. I leave my mother's jewelry collection and $50,000. Victoria's mouth fell open. 50,000, that's all? To my grandnephew, Sebastian, Bradley went on. Sebastian smirked at his sister. I leave my first edition book, collection, and $50,000. Sebastian's face fell. Books? Is this a prank? Richard pushed forward, undeterred. Bradley, enough. Where's the bulk of it? There's more, Richard snapped, his voice thick with disbelief. Bradley nodded, unperturbed. To my nephew Richard, I leave my golf clubs, memorabilia, and $50,000. Chaos erupted. This is absurd, Victoria cried. There's gotta be another will. 50,000, Charles roared. That's pocket change. Bradley raised a hand for silence. Please, let me continue. Richard's face reddened. What about the rest? The estate, the stocks, the company shares? I'm getting there, Bradley said evenly. The room quieted, every eye locked on him as he turned to the will's final page. As to the remainder of my estate, Bradley read, including all properties, investments, business interests, and personal effects not previously allocated. He paused, glancing up. Emily sat in her corner, expecting nothing, ready to bid Walter a silent farewell. I bequeath the entirety to Emily Bennett, my loyal assistant, trusted friend, and the daughter I never had. A heavy silence gripped the room. Emily's breath caught, her mind reeling. She must have misheard. "Read it again," Richard demanded, his voice cutting like a blade. Bradley calmly repeated, "The entirety to Emily Bennett." Emily's heart pounded. Walter had never hinted at this. "No!" Victoria shrieked, leaping up. "She tricked him! She preyed on a dying man!" 47 million to the assistant? Charles bellowed, veins bulging. Eyes turned to Emily, some wide with shock, others burning with contempt. She sat paralyzed, the weight of their stares crushing. Bradley produced an envelope. "There's a letter from Walter," he said. "He requested I read it if his decision was questioned. Loyal servant to steal it all." Penelope's voice dripped with venom. Emily sat speechless, Walter's letter echoing in her mind. "Go ahead, Richard," Bradley said coolly, unfazed by the outburst. "Contest it." But Walter anticipated. This, his letter continues. "Should my family challenge this will, know that I've ensured Emily's legal defense through a trust. My attorneys are prepared." Richard's face twisted, his loosened tie now askew. "This is a scam. Elder abuse." Bradley held up the letter. Walter wrote, "To my family, if you're hearing this, you're disputing my choice, as I predicted. You came to me only for loans or favors, whispering about your inheritance when you thought I couldn't hear. In my final months, only Emily was there, reading, managing my care, easing my pain. She never asked for a cent. When I offered bonuses, she refused, saying her salary was enough. She showed the integrity I wished to see in you. Emily's Feigemzim, vision blurred with tears, Walter's words wrapping around her like a shield. He investigated you all," Bradley continued. "Richard, your gambling debts. Charles, your tax evasion. Victoria, your husband's company fraud. Emily, though, lived honestly. Walter trusted her to carry on his charitable work." The room was a storm of fury. Victoria's theatrical sobs, Sebastian's frantic pacing, Charles's purple-faced sputtering. "The will is airtight," Bradley concluded, folding the letter. "Legally executed, fully witnessed." "We'll sue!" Richard roared, slamming the table. "You schemed this," Penelope shrieked at Emily. "Played the devoted helper to rob us!" Emily, still reeling, met their glares with quiet resolve, Walter's faith in her louder than their accusations. "Pain?" Martha's voice trembled with conviction, her years of loyalty to Walter shining through. "You showed up for handouts, not for him." "Mind your place!" Richard snarled, but Bradley raised a hand. "Enough! Walter foresaw this reaction and recorded a video 3 months ago to counter claims of coercion." He gestured to a screen in the corner. "He also had 2 independent doctors confirm his mental clarity. This will is untouchable." Sebastian scoffed. "Convenient." "Moreover," Bradley added, "Walter filed the will in 3 jurisdictions and ensured any challenges would be heard by an impartial panel in New York beyond your influence. Richard?" Richard's jaw clenched, his face scarlet. "My lawyers will bury this!" Emily, her shock giving way to resolve, spoke softly but firmly. "I didn't want his money. I only wanted to ease his final days." Victoria rolled her eyes. "How?" "Saintly. Yet you're not turning down the millions, are you?" Emily met her stare. "Walter entrusted me with his legacy. I won't fail him." "Unbelievable!" Richard spat, throwing up his hands. "A nobody gets the Harrington fortune, and we're left with scraps." "She's not a nobody," Martha snapped. "She was there, driving him to chemo, sitting up with him through sleepless nights. Where were you when he was suffering?" The room fell quiet, the weight of her words sinking in. Emily sat still, Walter's trust anchoring her against the storm of their resentment. "We're penniless immigrants who worked themselves to death. I built this fortune from nothing, and I want it to mean something beyond my lifetime." The room was silent, save for the faint rustle of paper as Emily read. An uncomfortable silence gripped the room. "This meeting is adjourned," Bradley declared. "My office will contact you regarding asset transfers and bequests. Miss Bennet, please remain for paperwork." As the relatives stormed out, their glares like daggers, Emily sat still, grappling with Walter's immense gift and its weighty duties. Once they'd gone, only Emily, Bradley, and Martha remained, the air thick with lingering tension. "Tea, love?" Martha asked, her warm hand squeezing Emily's shoulder. Emily managed a nod. "Thank you, Martha." When alone, Bradley sat opposite Emily. "Walter instructed me to give you this privately," he said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. "He was adamant no one else be present." Emily's hands shook as she opened it, Walter's familiar script sparking. New tears. "My dear Emily," it read, "by now Bradley has shared the news that's shocked everyone, especially you. I can imagine your confusion, wondering why I've placed this burden on you. The truth is, you're the only one I trust. When Caroline died 15 years ago, I lost myself to work, wealth, and isolation. My family hovered, eyeing my fortune. Then you answered that ad, and slowly you revived me. Your kindness was genuine, your mind free of greed. You showed me goodness endures. You understood my foundation, educating disadvantaged children, because you knew it was personal. I came from nothing, Emily. My parents were poor immigrants who died exhausted. I built this wealth from scratch, and I want it to outlive me, to matter. We're laborers, scraping by. A single smart investment sparked my fortune, but a child's future shouldn't hinge on chance. It should rest on effort, merit, kindness, qualities you live by. That's why I trust you with my wealth. Treat yourself. Buy. A home, visit Paris, but above all help others as you helped me. The foundation is yours to lead. The investments are secure, with advisors to guide you. Don't fear my family's threats. They have no legal footing. I've ensured it. You've been the daughter I never had these 5 years, and I regret not saying it sooner. This is my thank you, my way of securing my legacy in your hands. With utmost trust, Walter. Emily clutched the letter, tears streaming. He planned everything, didn't he? She murmured. Bradley nodded. Walter was meticulous. I've never handled millions, Emily confessed. That's why I'm here, Bradley reassured. Walter left clear instructions. We'll go step by step. 3 days later, Emily returned to the mansion, hers now, though it felt unreal, to sort Walter's belongings. She'd spent those days on her friend Olivia's couch, unable to face her tiny apartment, where life felt too ordinary. Pulling up in her old car, she spotted Richard's sleek sedan in the driveway. Her chest tightened. She'd hoped to dodge another clash. Martha met her at the door, face tense. They're in the study, she whispered. Richard, Victoria, and their lawyer. They've been here an hour. Emily steeled herself. Thank you, Martha. The study, Walter's haven, was filled with books and bathed in soft morning light from his antique desk. Now, Richard lounged behind it like he owned it, Victoria and a sharp-suited man in the high leather chairs opposite. The heiress arrives, Richard drawled. What do you want, Richard? Emily asked, standing firm. This is Julian Barnes, Richard said, nodding to the man. Top estate lawyer. Barnes gave a curt smile. Miss Bennet, my clients propose a settlement. To avoid a messy court fight, Victoria cut in. Barnes slid a paper across the desk. $5 million tax-free, you waive all estate claims. Emily didn't touch it. Mr. Sheffield said the will is airtight. Nothing's airtight, Barnes said slickly. We'll contest it. Undue influence. It could take years, the estate frozen. No funds, no foundation, just legal battles and your name smeared. Richard leaned in. Every moment with my uncle, every late night, every private talk, dissected, publicly. Is that a threat? Emily asked softly. It's a way out, Victoria said. $5 million is a fortune for someone like you. Be smart. Emily recalled Walter's letter, his faith, his dream for the foundation. No, she said firmly. They gaped. What? Richard choked. I said no. Walter trusted me with his vision. I won't abandon it, Richard shot up, red-faced. "You'll regret this! We'll ruin you!" Emily held his stare. "Walter was worth 100 of you, Richard. That's something your money can't touch." Stood, her usual poise replaced by a nervous fidget. "Victoria," Emily said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Victoria avoided her eyes. "I wanted to talk." Martha lingered, protective, but Emily nodded for her to leave. "Go on," Emily said, crossing her arms. Victoria hesitated. "The lawsuits, they're draining us. Richard's debts are piling up and the legal fees." She stopped, swallowing hard. "I'm here to ask you to settle. Not for $5 million. Just something to help us walk away." Emily studied her, remembering Walter's letter, his disappointment in his family's greed. "You mocked me, accused me of manipulating him. Why should I help you now?" Victoria's face flushed. "I was wrong. We were wrong. Walter saw something in you we didn't. I'm not proud, but I'm asking." Emily paused, weighing her options. Walter's foundation was her focus, not revenge. "I'll consider a small settlement," she said finally, "but only if you drop all claims and stop the media attacks. This isn't about me. It's about what Walter wanted." Victoria nodded quickly. Agreed. As she left, Emily felt a weight lift. She walked to the study, surrounded by Walter's books, and whispered, "I'm keeping my promise." The foundation was thriving, the lawsuits were crumbling, and she was honoring Walter's trust, one step at a time. Victoria sat alone, her usual polish faded. "Victoria," Emily said warily, "this is unexpected." Victoria avoided her gaze. "I came to talk. No lawyers, no Richard, just us." Emily sat opposite her. "I'm listening." "Why fight so hard?" Victoria asked, her voice softer than usual. "You could take a settlement and live comfortably forever." "It's not about money," Emily replied. "It's about respecting Walter's wishes." Victoria looked up, vulnerability flickering in her eyes. "You truly cared for him, didn't you?" "Deeply," Emily said. A quiet moment passed. "He was tough," Victoria murmured. "Even as kids, he demanded perfection. It was easier to keep my distance." "He was lonely," Emily said softly, "especially after Caroline's death." Victoria nodded, regret shadowing her face. "I'm dropping my lawsuit," she declared. "Richard can fight alone. I'm out." "Why?" Emily asked. Victoria stood, smoothing her jacket. "Because Uncle Walter was right. You're better than us." As Victoria left, Emily felt a quiet resolve settle in. She was fulfilling Walter's trust, right where she belonged. 6 months later, Emily stood at the opening of the Walter and Caroline Harrington Educational Center, offering tutoring and college prep for underserved youth. Richard's legal battle had collapsed when his lawyer quit. Emily realized the wealth lay in impact, lives transformed, futures built. Walter had always understood that. If this tale of fortune and purpose moved you, subscribe for more uplifting stories. Share where you're watching from in the comments. After all, life's greatest legacy is the bonds we forge.